Have you ever wondered why some men seem completely unaffected by a woman's mood swings, her tests, or even her sudden withdrawal of attention, while others get pulled in like they're caught in quicksand? You've seen it happen. A man starts off confident, maybe even a little mysterious, and she's drawn to him like he's a riddle she wants to solve. But somewhere along the way, his center of gravity shifts. Instead of her chasing his energy, he starts chasing hers. And from that moment, the game changes. Not in his favor. Here's the truth: women are drawn to strength. Not just physical strength, but emotional stability. The kind that isn't rattled by their storms. But most men don't realize how quickly they give that strength away. All it takes is one moment where she pulls back, where she gets quieter than usual, where the affection slows down and suddenly he's thinking, what did I do wrong? That's when he starts overcompensating, texting more, seeking reassurance, giving more attention to try to win her back. And in that scramble, he just handed her the frame. Real men who keep a woman's respect know something different. They know that when she pulls back, it's not always about fixing something. Sometimes, it's about watching what she does when you don't chase. It's about holding your line, not rushing in to fill the silence. Think about it: if every time she withdraws, you respond with more effort. What are you teaching her? You're teaching her that she can control the rhythm of the relationship by simply stepping back. You're showing her that you'll dance to her beat, even if it's out of sync with your own. I knew a guy confident, charming, had women laughing in minutes. But once he started dating a woman he really liked, she began using subtle withdrawals. She'd take longer to reply, show less enthusiasm, make herself slightly less available. His response? He doubled down. More flowers, more good morning texts, more compliments. She didn't see it as sweet, she saw it as predictable. And the moment she knew she could shift his energy just by shifting hers, the respect started to fade. Not because she was cruel, but because the mystery was gone. The tactic here isn't to play games back, it's to remain unmoved. When she steps back, you don't fill the gap with panic. You let the gap be. You give her the space to feel your absence, and you use that space to recenter yourself. Real men don't chase validation, they hold the frame. They make sure that their emotional state isn't dependent on her level of attention that day. This is where most men fail. They think consistency means constant availability. But consistency is about being rooted, not about being endlessly accessible. If your consistency means she never has a moment to wonder about you, then you're robbing the relationship of tension. And tension, in the right measure, is attraction's oxygen. Here's a practical way to handle it. The next time you feel her pulling away, less warmth, slower replies, shorter conversations. Don't react immediately. Give it 48 hours without changing your normal pace. Don't send more texts. Don't try to check in to see if something's wrong. Instead, stay present in your own life. Work out, see friends, handle your responsibilities, and when you do interact with her, keep your tone calm, light, and centered. You're not punishing her. You're showing that you're grounded enough to let her energy ebb and flow without losing yourself. Because here's the deeper layer women often test without even realizing they're testing. They want to feel that the man they're with has a center strong enough to weather emotional fluctuations. If you can't hold steady when she gets distant, she'll wonder if you can hold steady when life gets truly hard. That's not manipulation, that's instinct. But if you fall apart or overinvest every time she shifts, she learns she can't lean on you. And there's another benefit when you don't rush to fill the silence. You give her room to miss you. Attention is valuable because it's limited. If she knows you'll give it endlessly no matter what, she won't feel the same urgency to earn it. But if she senses that your attention comes naturally when there's mutual connection, not as a desperate attempt to keep her, she'll respect it and you more. So, what makes real men treat women this way? It's not arrogance, it's not coldness. It's an understanding that in any relationship, respect and attraction are tied to how you manage your emotional energy. You can love deeply and still stay rooted. You can care for her without letting her moods dictate your own. That's the quiet power, the kind that doesn't get shaken when she pulls away. The kind that draws her back without you lifting a finger. Have you ever chased harder when a woman pulled back? Did it work, or did it push her further away? What's the hardest part for you when trying to hold your ground? Share your story in the comments. Here's the part no one tells you. Holding your ground isn't just about what you don't do. It's also about what you do in those moments when the pressure builds. When you feel the urge to break your own frame just to get some kind of emotional relief. A lot of men think restraint is passive, that if they're not chasing, they're doing nothing. That's not true. The strongest men replace chasing with centering. When her attention dips, they don't just sit in the corner pretending not to care. They redirect that energy into themselves, their work, their body, their circle. They let her absence feed their focus instead of their anxiety. Think of it like this: if you keep a fire burning by constantly throwing logs into it, you might be keeping it alive, but you're also making it dependent on you. Real attraction is when the fire has its own oxygen. That means you need to keep parts of yourself untouched, unavailable, and unshakable. If she feels she's the only thing fueling you, she'll start wondering if you can stand on your own. And here's the uncomfortable truth when she starts wondering that. Her respect starts leaking away quietly, even if she doesn't say it. Let's make it real with a common scenario. You've been seeing a woman for a few weeks. It's going well. She's affectionate, engaged, makes time for you. Then suddenly, her replies are shorter. She says she's busy. She seems distracted when you're together. Most men will either confront her too soon. Is something wrong? Are you upset with me? Or they'll overcompensate with grand gestures to pull her back in. Both reactions tell her the same thing. My mood controls you. Instead, imagine this: she's distant for a few days, and you keep your life exactly as it is. You go to the gym, you work on your projects, you meet friends. You don't make her distance the center of your world. When you do talk, your energy is steady warm, but not needy. You listen more than you explain. You let her feel that you're fine, with or without her immediate attention. That's when her curiosity comes back. That's when she starts asking you where you've been, what you've been doing, why you seem so unbothered. And here's where the shift happens. She starts to invest again. Not because you tricked her, not because you ignored her, but because you stayed rooted in something bigger than her. Women are drawn to men who are in motion toward their own goals, who have a life that exists beyond the relationship. When you show that, without trying to prove it, she feels the pull. But you need to understand, this doesn't mean you never give her reassurance or affection. The difference is in when and why you give it. If you give it out of fear of losing her, it loses value. If you give it because you choose to, from a place of abundance, it has weight. She can feel the difference between a man who's calming his own panic and a man who's expressing genuine care from a solid place. There's also a trap here for a lot of men: the silent sulk. They think they're holding the frame, but what they're really doing is punishing her with coldness. That's not strength. That's just insecurity wearing armor. Strength is calm. It's the ability to smile, to keep your voice steady, to stay present without bending. It's the patience to see if her energy comes back without forcing it. And if it doesn't, you walk away without drama, because you've already built a life that doesn't crumble when she's gone. One guy I knew, a quiet but solid type, had this down to an art. His girlfriend went through phases where she'd test him, flirt a little too much with other guys, cancel plans last minute, pull back on affection. He never chased, never lashed out, never played the victim. He'd simply step back and keep moving forward in his own lane. She'd always circle back, not because he manipulated her, but because he refused to be emotionally owned. She knew his love was real, but she also knew it was voluntary, and that made it worth keeping. This is the deeper psychology. Women don't just want love, they want to feel like they earned it. If you hand it over without boundaries, without her needing to meet your standard, it loses weight. If you make her work for nothing, she stops working. That's when the respect evaporates. So here's your tactical takeaway when she withdraws. Do 3 things. 1. Slow your responses just slightly, not enough to play games, but enough to show you're not on standby. 2. Fill your schedule with things that build you up: physical, mental, social. 3. When you see her again, keep the same energy as before. Don't act wounded. Don't demand explanations. Let her see that your foundation hasn't moved an inch. It's not about winning her back. It's about keeping yourself. And the man who keeps himself never has to beg for a woman's interest. She'll give it freely, or not at all. And either way, he's fine. Have you ever held your ground like this and watched her come back? Or did you let the pull of anxiety make you chase? Which reaction feels more like you right now? Drop it in the comments. There's another layer to this that most men miss. It's not just about staying calm when she pulls away. It's about understanding why she does it, and how that understanding changes the way you respond. Because if you don't see the pattern clearly, you'll mistake every emotional shift for a crisis. Sometimes her withdrawal is unconscious testing. She wants to feel if you're still the man she was drawn to in the beginning, or if you've started orbiting her instead of standing in your own center. Sometimes it's emotional self-regulation. She's dealing with her own life, stress, or doubts, and she's instinctively retreating to process. And yes, sometimes it's because her interest is fading. Here's the trap: most men treat all 3 the same way. Panic. They close the gap instantly, pouring on more attention, more validation, more effort, thinking they're fixing the problem. But in reality, if it's a test, you just failed. If it's her own stress, you just made it about you. And if her interest is fading, you just sped up the process. The men who keep their footing approach each situation with the same frame: observe first, act later. They don't assume they know her mind. They watch her pattern over time. They see if the shift lasts a day, a week, or longer. And here's the key: they respond proportionally. If she's less available, they match her energy instead of overcompensating. If she reaches back out, they meet her warmly, but without leaning forward harder than she does. Let me give you an example from a coaching client of mine. He'd been dating a woman for about 2 months. Everything was smooth until she suddenly started spacing out during their conversations and texting less. His old habit would have been to win her back with weekend trips, expensive dinners, and long emotional texts. But this time, he slowed down. He didn't punish her or act cold. He just stopped initiating as much and let her come to him. After a week, she brought it up herself. "You've been kind of busy lately." He smiled and said, "Yeah, I've had a lot going on." The attraction snapped back, not because he ignored her, but because he stayed valuable in her eyes by not becoming reactive. That's the mindset shift. You stop seeing her attention as the prize, and you start seeing your own composure as the prize. She can step back, step forward, or even step out entirely, but your foundation doesn't shake. And when a woman feels that, she can relax into the relationship instead of feeling like she's responsible for holding you together emotionally. Here's where it gets tactical. There's a subtle behavior that reveals whether you're leading with strength or fear: the way you speak, when her interest dips. Men who lose frame ask loaded questions. Did I do something wrong? Are you mad at me? Do you still like me? Those questions broadcast uncertainty, and uncertainty invites loss of respect. Strong men don't interrogate. They either stay silent and watch, or they address it lightly. You seem a little distracted, everything good. Then they let her answer and move on. They don't linger in insecurity. They communicate that they can handle distance without breaking. You also have to guard against overcompensation disguised as generosity. This is one of the most common mistakes. A woman withdraws, and instead of checking himself, a man tries to remind her of his value with more gifts, more effort, more time. But effort given out of fear is poison. It feels different, it smells different, and women can sense it instantly. Generosity from strength is attractive. Generosity from anxiety feels like payment for attention. The difference between those two is simple if you do it whether or not she was pulling away. It's strength. If you're only doing it because she's pulling away, it's weakness. And here's the brutal truth: sometimes you hold the frame, you stay grounded, you do everything right, and she still leaves. That's when you realize the real power of this mindset. It protects your self-respect. You don't spiral, you don't beg, you don't lose weeks or months trying to convince someone to want you. You accept it, you move forward, and you carry that composure into the next chapter of your life. Because the point isn't to keep every woman, it's to keep yourself. To live in such a way that any woman in your life knows she's there by choice, not by leverage. So here's your challenge next time you feel that urge to fix her mood or force her attention. Stop, breathe, ask yourself, am I acting from fear or from strength? And if the answer is fear, pull back, let her come to you. And if she doesn't, you just got your answer. Have you ever mistaken her pulling away for a crisis when it wasn't? How did you react? And what would you do differently now? There's a reason some men never get caught in the endless loop of chasing, doubting, and second-guessing. It's because they've stopped buying into the unspoken belief that a woman's affection is the measure of their worth. They've seen the cost of that belief, either in their own life or by watching others crash and burn. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. When a man's identity depends on how a woman currently feels about him, he's on a leash he can't even see. Every text reply, every facial expression, every tone shift becomes a referendum on his value. She smiles warmly, he's confident. She seems distracted, he's restless, overthinking, replaying every conversation in his head. He's no longer living, he's monitoring. And here's the tragedy: he's not even present with her anymore. He's just trying to avoid the moment where she confirms his fear. Real men cut that leash. They understand that a relationship is not a constant stream of reassurance. It's an ebb and flow. Interest naturally has rhythms, and those rhythms don't need to threaten your stability. If your sense of self is tied to her attention level, you'll be dragged by every wave. But if you're anchored in something bigger than the relationship, the waves just pass. This doesn't mean you ignore warning signs. It means you read them without reacting like a man on trial. You observe patterns over time, and if those patterns point to declining respect, you act not out of desperation, but out of principle. A man with options, with purpose, doesn't beg someone to stay. He makes space for someone who wants to be there without games. Let's put this into a familiar scene. You're out to dinner, and she's quieter than usual. She's scrolling through her phone more than she's talking to you. The insecure man leans in, asks, "Are you bored? Did I do something wrong?" He's fishing for reassurance. The grounded man notices it, lets it go for the moment, and keeps enjoying his meal. Later, if the pattern repeats, he might address it once, clearly and without neediness. "You've seemed a little distracted lately. Everything okay?" Then he shuts up and listens. He doesn't try to convince her to explain or to change her mood. That's the discipline most men lack, not reacting to every dip in her emotional temperature. Because the truth is, not all dips are about you. And if you rush to fix them, you teach her that you'll always bend first. That bending might feel like caring at first, but over time, it just feels like predictability. Predictability without polarity is the death of attraction. Here's another common test you need to recognize the delayed response. She used to reply quickly. Now it takes hours. Insecure men send another message. Maybe a question mark. Maybe a, "Did you get my last text?" That's a frame collapse in real time. The man who holds his ground lets the silence breathe. He doesn't fill it. He responds when he chooses. Not the second he sees her name pop up. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about not being trained into urgency. Because make no mistake, urgency is a training pattern. If she learns that making you wait gets you more engaged, she'll subconsciously use it again. If she learns that making you wait changes nothing about your behavior, she'll either stop doing it or accept that she can't manipulate your tempo. Now, I want to be brutally clear here. This isn't about controlling her. It's about controlling yourself. You can't stop someone from playing games, but you can make sure you're not a willing participant. You can't make her value your attention, but you can give it in a way that keeps it valuable. And that means you never give it from fear. A man once told me, "But if I don't show her I care when she's pulling away, won't she think I'm cold?" No, if she knows you're generally affectionate, if she's felt your presence and your interest when things are good, then holding steady during her mood swings won't read as cold, it'll read as mature. What reads as cold is when you withhold affection to punish her. What reads as weak is when you pour it on to buy her comfort. The sweet spot is this: your baseline energy stays the same. When she's close, you enjoy it. When she's distant, you don't chase it. You don't withdraw to hurt her, and you don't overextend to pull her back. That middle ground is where respect lives. Because in the end, how you treat her when she's pulling away is a reflection of how you treat yourself when life pulls at you. If you fold under pressure, she'll feel it. If you stand tall without posturing, she'll feel that too. And one of those makes her want to step closer again, not because you forced her, but because she chose to. Have you ever caught yourself making her moods the center of your decisions? What did it cost you? And what would it feel like to stop doing that completely? Here's the reality that flips the whole game on its head once you truly stop centering your decisions around a woman's shifting interest. You stop being reactive and start being selective. You stop asking, "How can I keep her?" and start asking, "Is she worth keeping?" That's when your energy changes. That's when she feels the difference between a man who's clinging and a man who's choosing. Most men never get to that point because they're addicted to the chase. They confuse constant pursuit with romance, thinking the more they do, the deeper the bond. But pursuit without pause is just noise. It leaves no space for her to invest, no room for her to wonder about you. And if she never has to wonder, she never has to work. Women respect men they have to work for, not in a manipulative sense, but in the sense that his presence, attention, and affection are earned by mutual effort. If she can pull back without consequence, if she can take your energy for granted, it's only a matter of time before she does. And when that happens, you're left in the weakest position a man can be in, overcommitted to someone who's undercommitted to you. Let's make this brutally practical. Imagine you've been with her for 6 months. At first, it's mutual equal texting, equal plans, equal affection. Then the imbalance starts. She cancels last minute more often. She takes longer to reply. She gives less physical affection. If you're the average man, you start compensating. You offer more flexible plans. You text more. You initiate physical closeness more. You think you're keeping the spark alive, but what you're really doing is making up for her lack of effort with your own. That's not romance, that's a slow bleed. The strong man does something different. He notices the shift, matches her effort, and keeps his own standards. He's still warm when they're together, but he doesn't carry the whole load. He doesn't rearrange his life to accommodate her flakiness. If she cancels last minute, he fills that time with something else: training, friends, work, not sulking or waiting for her to change her mind. And here's the paradox: the moment she feels she could actually lose him, not because he's threatening to leave, but because his life moves with or without her, she re-engages. She starts investing again, not out of fear, but out of respect. That respect is the foundation for long-term attraction. But if she doesn't re-engage, that's your answer. You're not in limbo, waiting for her to come back to her senses. You're making space for someone who meets you halfway. And that's where most men fail. They think holding the frame is just about getting her back, when, in reality, it's about protecting your own life from people who can't meet your standard. This is why detachment is so powerful. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without being owned. You can enjoy a woman fully, you can love her deeply, but you don't lose your self-respect in the process. You don't negotiate with your own boundaries just to keep her happy for another week. A man I knew successful, confident, with no shortage of options, had one rule he never explained: his value. If a woman was pulling away, he'd let her. If she came back, great. If she didn't, he didn't chase. Not because he didn't feel the loss, but because he knew the cost of betraying himself to avoid it. That's the kind of man women remember long after they're gone, not the one who begged, but the one who walked with dignity. So here's your tactical move when you feel her slipping. First, stop making it about you. Don't assume you did something wrong just because her mood changed. Second, assess the pattern. How long has this been happening? And is it part of a bigger shift? Third, keep your routine tight. Your life should stay full, so her absence feels like a change in the scenery, not the collapse of the structure. Fourth, be willing to let go if the imbalance becomes permanent. That's not losing, it's refusing to live in a relationship where you're the only one rowing the boat. Because the truth is, women are drawn to men who can let go, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in quiet certainty. It's the same reason negotiation experts say the side most willing to walk away has the power. It's not about playing games, it's about having a life worth returning to. So you have a choice. You can keep bending until she no longer respects you, or you can hold your ground until she either steps closer or walks away. And if she walks, you'll still be standing, intact, ready for someone who doesn't need to be convinced. What about you? Have you ever stayed too long, giving more than you got, hoping she'd notice? How did it end, and what would you do differently if it happened again tomorrow? She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.